So here's the thing with entrepreneurship is that you have to completely change the way that you think about people, and you have to really assume. I have now become very much a cynic about people, and I've very much become like, if they don't care. Um, And that's actually a good thing. And I'm not saying that in a mean way, and I'm not saying that in like a bad way, is that most people just don't care and they're very self-interested. And so if you work with that as an assumption, as like, don't expect anybody to do anything, don't expect anybody to really care, and you're going from the assumption as like, you might be well intentioned and you might want to like help other people, but they don't care. They don't want to do this. And so your job as the entrepreneur is to figure out um, how to get other people to care about this thing. So it's very different. In fact, it is way different than anything that I've seen in academia, for example, or people even talking about this, is that the default is that people live their own lives. And then you have to work backwards of trying to figure out how this actually works with their own life. So that's why, you know, I have turned and thought about like people really, really are self interested, and they'll never lift a finger if it doesn't ecstatically go over and above what they wanted and what they wanted at that moment. That's the only time they're going to lift a finger to do anything. And so it's this backwards induction of how do you find the right combination such that people will care, right? And it's figuring out how do you get the right design, how do what is the right audience, what is the right product to fit that audience. It's very much a different perspective where you go into it assuming people live their own lives, and no matter how good this thing is going to sort of change their lives and um, actually matter in their lives and all of that kind of stuff, right? Like no matter how good it is, they do not care about it, and they don't care about you as the entrepreneur. They don't care about anything other than themselves, right? Like, don't ever assume the other way. um, you're never going to get anything to work if you assume the other way, right? Like they're just doing it because they want to help out and all of that kind of stuff. It's like, no, they're self-interested. In general, most people are just not nice, I guess, is the thing, right? Like they care about themselves. And if you assume that going into it, knowing how to build this thing such that you can get people to use this thing regardless, they're not going to care about where it comes from. They're not going to care about, who makes it. They're not going to care about anything. What they care about is the fact that it actually solves their problem right at that moment. And if you can backwards induct to get it to the point where it solves their problem right at that moment and when they need it, then you can actually sort of figure this thing out. And it's an interesting perspective. Um, and it's completely different than what other people say. But it's figuring out how to the get to the point where you're actually building this thing that actually matters to people, right? If you can figure out to the person that does not care the most, to figure out how to, um, design your product, get it to function in such a way that that person that cares the least, um, and you get it so that they're actually using it, then you've kind of figured out all of how to actually do this, right? So it's the important thing is to assume that you're going for an audience that is, just not in it to win it. Basically, that's what I tell my kids, not in it to win it. That they're just like really flat in terms of what they, that they care about this thing. And so you have to like figure out, okay, how do I get the wording such that it gets them at the right time in the right place? And then even still, right? Even still, um, if you've got 1,000 people, only one or two people are actually going to sort of resonate with this thing, even in the best of situations, right? So you are figuring out how to identify that one or two people. You're figuring out, um, the what it is that you need to sort of say. You're figuring out a lot of different things, and it's a completely different way, um, to go about this. So imagine that you are that that you've got, I don't know, you've got some chocolate bars, and then you have to go into a crowded room and sell these chocolate bars. Actually, imagine that you have, um, you know, a piece of wood, and you got to go into a room, crowded room with a piece of wood and sell it. Well, then you've got to figure out what is the right combination. Because if I said chocolate bar, a lot of people are going to want a chocolate bar, but most things when people sell it, it's a piece of wood. You have to figure out how to sell this particular thing, um, or get people to get excited about it by just walking around and talking to people, and or shouting or whatever way that to sort of get people to pay attention. And it's challenging, right? Like that is the pickle. That's the challenge, is getting people to care about it, even though that their default is not to. And so you have to figure out backwards induct, figure, kind of maybe trial and error to get it to the point where people actually care about this thing. And so the more that you spend time doing that, the better off that you are going to be. And I encourage you all to sort of whittle away at things and try and explore and try to figure out what is the right combination. And it's not going to be obvious, but you just got to keep whittling away at it. All right, take care and have a wonderful day.